Happy Thursday. We're almost towards the end of the week. Aren't you so happy? I'm so excited. It's a little chilly here today. I'm a little cold, but I'm really excited to see all of you. I'm so happy to be here. I love chatting with you guys. This new thing that I've been doing of going live and just sharing with you has been so fun to me and just something that I've really enjoyed and looked forward to each day that I'm able to do it. So this will be probably the last time that I do it this week, but I'll be doing more next week and more ongoing. And so I'm just like really excited to do it. And I'm really excited just to be in community with all of you because what a blessing to be in community, right? How amazing is it that we get to support each other? And so I've shared with some of you all before that, you know, I grew really slowly. My business is very successful now, but it was not successful in the beginning. And for those of you who are just tuning in and don't know who I am, I'm Erica Lehman. My business is Sweet Alice Photography. My mentorship piece is called Smart Alice. And Alice is my cat. In case any of you are wondering, she lives with my dad now, but that's who this business was named after. And I made that name change quite a while ago and it just stuck. And so if you ever see me kind of honing in on cats, etc., that's why they're part of my brand and I love it that way. Um, and so I wanted to come on here today to talk to you guys about like one big step you can actually take, a tactic you can actually put into practice and actually once you get off this live with me, you can take out your journal and start working on this, or just take out a piece of paper or even like a notes app on your phone and start thinking about these things. And this is going to put you in a good headspace to get to a point where you can grow and scale, and even to a good headspace where maybe you're not at the point where you need to grow or scale, but you're at the point where you just need to be consistent, right? You just need to know what you need to be charging. At the end of the day, you need to know your bottom line. And so I feel like a lot of us sometimes really struggle with charging, right? That's the overarching theme a lot of the time. When I post stuff in my Instagram stories and I ask about pricing and charging and things of that nature, um, the overarching theme of the response that I get is charging is scary. I don't know what to charge. Where do I even look? What if I scare people away? And it's all just revolved around this interesting money mindset, this really interesting idea of money and how that works in our business, especially in the service industry. And so if you're here and you're not a wedding photographer, that's okay. This tactic and what I'm about to teach you guys is something that will help anybody in any industry. Even if you're not a business owner, even if you're not an entrepreneur, it is going to help you because it will help you to determine, when you're applying for your next job or when you're going for like a promotion at your 9 to 5, this will help you to understand your priorities, right? So this is a tactic that you can use not only in your business, but also outside of it, depending on where you are, what you're doing, what your goals are. So a lot of the time when we are talking about our rates, when we're talking about what we want to charge as wedding photographers, we kind of get stuck in not keeping our rates consistent, but that's what we actually really want, right? Because that helps us to know what to expect for our annual bringing in of money, right? How we pay our bills. We can't be just charging willy-nilly different prices for everybody because then, there's so many issues that go into that, but at the end of the day, we just really need to know what to expect to bring in. So we need to know that if we're trending to, let's just say, be booking 10 weddings next year, if that's what our trend is looking like, then how much can I reasonably expect to be paid next year? What would my actual annual salary be from that? And so we need to know that we're not going to be discounting our prices. We need to know that we're going to be at a certain bracket and not necessarily letting another individual determine that for us. And again, like I mentioned before in a different live, just because sometimes like our budgets don't align, so like maybe your cost doesn't align with somebody else's budget, the person that actually wants to hire you, that doesn't mean that you need to decrease your prices. It also doesn't mean that they're bad. Your priorities are just not in alignment, and that's okay. It's just not a match. So if you are struggling with this, if anytime somebody reaches out to you and you kind of cringe sending out your welcome guide and you're kind of very nervous about the pricing that you're sending out, but at the end of the day, you really need to be consistent in your prices. You need to know that your prices are X number of dollars and they're X number of dollars for just about everybody. If you're going to offer discounts, it has to be a win-win. Has to. It can't just be a win on this side or a win on this side. It has to be a win on both sides. But most of the time, your pricing really does need to be consistent, especially in the service industry. And there's flexibility to grow and increase, right? And so there's a big possibility that what you charged last year is not going to be what you charge next year, right? But people also talk. So we need to know that when we discount, we don't know what kind of ripples we're putting out there, right? Our intention is to bless another person most of the time. But we also don't know what conversations other people have, and we can't control that, and we shouldn't want to control that. But one way that we can not control, but inform the narrative is by keeping consistent rates. And so if you're really wanting to charge consistent rates, the first thing you need to do is you have to let go of the guilt of it. You do not need to feel guilty for making money. You do not need to feel guilty for making money when providing an excellent service. You do not need to feel guilty about making money as a woman. You do not need to feel guilty about making money as whatever you are, because a lot of the time our origin stories really inform how we feel about money. They really inform how we feel about ourselves and our worth as it ties to money. But at the end of the day, there is nothing wrong with you making money, right? And so I think that's number one, is that we have to let go of the guilt that when we charge something, that somebody is not going to be able to pay it, because that's often not the case. We can't determine where people are going to find money, and people are going to reset priorities to be able to work with you. Like I've said before, I've worked with many people that when they first reached out to me, their budget was half of what I charge. And so I still sent them the same charging information. I still sent them the exact same cost, no discounts. They sent me a budget of 50% of what I actually charge. And so I got that information, but that did not inform my obligation. That did not inform whether or not I needed to feel guilty. That did not inform anything except for me to know, hey, this is where this person is coming from. How can I show them that working with me is a value add, that working with me is a non-negotiable? And so you also have to make sure that your level of service is really excellent. You have to make sure that you're charging properly for what you provide. If you provide a garbage service, you should not be charging luxury prices straight up. But I'll also tell you that I don't mentor people that charge too much for not excellent services. Everybody that I work with provide an excellent client experience. And most of us do, and most of us want to, and sometimes we get to a point where we think, or where we're not providing the level of excellence that we're used to, and that's because we're overwhelmed, and that's because our pricing hasn't protected our energy, it hasn't protected our time. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but you first have to let go of the guilt. You have to. Just because somebody can't afford you doesn't mean that nobody can afford you. Can you believe? It's the truth. And so I would encourage you to determine a price that would make you feel really, really good to walk out the door for. What feels really good to you to leave your house for? If it's for a wedding, for 6 to 8 hours. If it's for a session, it's for 1 to 2 hours. What price feels really good for you to even leave your house, right? What price feels good for you to also show up in a really energetic way for your clients? What is that price point for you? And this is something that you have to do this work to determine. Nobody can tell you that. Literally nobody can tell you that except for you. Nobody can let you know what your pricing priorities are except for you. We all have a general idea of what you should take into account when determining your cost of doing business, but over and above that, what is that for you, right? And so writing it out is really important. I have a notebook here, writing it out in a notebook, writing it on a sticky note. and determining this is the price point that would make me feel good to leave the house. And when you do that and you start to get specific as to what you are leaving the house for, right? That price point, what you are serving your clients at that price point, and what is falling into that, it's going to feel scary because you're getting to a level of specificity that you haven't been at before. A lot of us kind of like keep going and keep going and keep going without any like informing information. We keep going without any strategy. We're just like, oh, it feels good for us to raise our prices, so we're going to raise our prices. But what's behind that, right? Why are you raising your prices? Are you raising your prices to protect your time? Are you raising your prices to make sure you don't have like a super booked out season and you're not overwhelmed? Are you raising your prices because you've enhanced your client experience? Are you raising your prices because you've, really created customized welcome gifts, right? So there has to be reasons too. There's also a gut negotiation of what feels good for us to charge. But what are you raising your rates for, right? So this is going to feel scary when you get to this level of specificity because now it's tangible. Now it's on a piece of paper. Now you're looking at it and you're like, can I charge this? Can I charge this? Who knows, right? And we don't know because we don't have frameworks built around it. We don't know what we're actually charging for. We really, really don't know. And so for so long, we've kept going, kept going, kept going. Everything has been working fine, no problem, right? And so we feel like if it's not broken, we don't need to fix it. And it's not broken. And it doesn't need to be fixed. It just needs to be adjusted. It just needs to be adjusted to match where you actually are in your journey. That's all it is. It's just an adjustment. It's not a fix. And so when we start to look at tangible stuff and we start to look at tangible numbers, it becomes scary. But you have to look at them. You have to understand them. If you're going to own a business, you're going to own a profitable business, and you're going to own a business that you want to potentially scale one day. And there's also a level of it that when you write out things and they become tangible, they become real, you can see them instead of them being like up in the cloud in your head. There's this idea that, oh, this is a goal and maybe I'm not going to make it. This is a goal and maybe I'm not going to meet this goal. And that's scary. When you have the sticky note up on your whiteboard, which I do, I have one right here, and it's a scary goal. But when you have that and you look at it and you're reminded of it, you're also reminded of not only how you can succeed, but also how you could potentially fail. But having that written down keeps you accountable. You have to write things down, and nobody can keep you the most accountable except for you. This is all your responsibility. This is your business, your responsibility. You can hire a coach, you can hire a mentor, you can hire me and think it's going to be some type of buoy up in your crazy ocean. But at the end of the day, any coach, any mentor is going to tell you if you don't do the work and you don't push past the fear, that's nobody's problem but yours. And so if you are really wanting to get to this level of feeling confident in what you charge and how you charge, and not being nervous every time you send out your welcome guide with your prices, not being like, not feeling nauseous every time that you send out your welcome guide, there are a few steps that I want to give to you. So the first thing I would do would be I would recommend that you either get a piece of paper or you pull out like a notes app or like a Google Doc on your computer. And I would write down that scary wedding package number. That number that feels scary to charge, but you kind of know that you can and you should. And always keep that visible. So if it's on a sticky note, you'd stick it on your computer. If it's on an electronic device, you would screenshot it and put it as the background of your phone. If it's on your actual computer, you always keep that Google Doc up. So you're constantly kept accountable to this number that you know you really should be charging because you know what you're doing. And then I want you, this is uncomfortable, but I want you to think about all of the reasons you don't think you can charge this. A lot of stuff that comes up around this is like lack of experience, quality of gear, how old you are, the systems you have in place. How much are you DIYing? But then, so you have, this list of why you don't think you can charge that. But then next to that, I want you to write down any education you have invested in, right? And this isn't just a college education. It can be extracurriculars that you've been a part of, potentially in high school, that you had to pay extra for, right? It can be extracurriculars in college, the price of your college education, right? Any educational experience, and even above and outside of a traditional educational experience, then also mentorship programs, coaching programs, courses that you've purchased online. And whether they're in the mindset realm or they're actually in the tech realm or they're in the business realm, any sort of education that you have somehow invested in, actual dollars. And write those things down, and next to each of those things, write the dollar amounts that you paid for them. Because it's true that you have to spend money to make money, and that money can be made back. And so then, after the education, write down the cost of your gear. How much gear do you have? How many lenses do you have? If you're a wedding photographer, it is normal for you to have at least 2 backup camera bodies, several backup lenses, several backup flashes. All of that stuff, how much money have you spent on that? The cost of your business upkeep. How much are you paying per year for insurance, your website, just your custom email? There's lots of little things that add up very quickly. You could even put into this the cost of your accountant who helps you file your taxes every year, the cost of your cell phone bill. And then ascribe a number to the photo experience that you have. Ascribe a number to, you haven't actually paid money to photograph a wedding, but experience is worth money. And so write that down too. What experience do you actually have, and what dollar amount would you ascribe to that? And when you add all these things up, it's going to be exorbitant. It's going to be crazy. And I'll tell you right now, like, my college education was $100,000, and that's on the low end, right? And so when you see everything that you have invested in, even if you went to college and you didn't go to college for photography, you didn't go to college for business. I went to college for business, but also music, right? And while that did not relate directly to running a business, it did not relate directly to taking photos, it showed me the power of community. It showed me how to work in a team. It showed me how to lead. It showed me how to teach, right? So there's a lot in here within your education, whether or not it's actually solely focused on what your business focuses on or other, right? And all of that is worth money. And when you see all of these things that you've written out next to the reasons why you think you can't charge, number one, the educational experiences that you've gone through are going to be tremendous. And they're going to far outnumber the reasons why you think you can't charge. And they're also going to be a ton of money. And so when you see those dollar signs added up tangibly in your journal, in your Google document, it's going to be a no-brainer that you should be charging what you actually should be charging, right? Instead of being like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous to send these contracts out. I'm nervous to send this invoice out. No. Your experience is worth it. Your background is worth it. people pay money for experience, and part of that is paying for somebody's education and what they do. So I want to challenge you guys to do that, to write down all of these things, write down, why you think you can't charge, and then all of the things you've actually invested in, and then send me a DM of like a screenshot or a picture if you actually wrote it down in a journal, and let me know what it is. Send me a DM because I want to see it. And this will also help it keep in the forefront of your mind. And once you see all of these things all together, that is like your first best step towards charging consistently, which then builds upon itself to get to that 6-figure portion. So send me that DM of the screenshot. And if you're curious about working together with me, my link to my program is right in my Instagram bio. So feel free to find me there. And otherwise, I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you for being here. I always appreciate the opportunity and the honor of working with you and serving with you and teaching. It's just such a blessing. I will talk to you soon.